It's a great turnout today, and the rain's off, which is brilliant. But yeah, it's great to see so many people here. And the reason that we're here is because of the catastrophic failures of the British government and the Westminster system. This might be the last few days of Theresa May's leadership. Well, I say leadership. It is an interesting philosophical question. Can a bin fire have a leader? Because that's where we are now. You know, there's such a mess. We're in such a mess that people who you might imagine would be serious and responsible are actually proposing Michael Gove as the leader of the Conservative Party and the next Prime Minister. And if Michael Gove is the answer to your question, the question can only be, how screwed are we? But there's been a build-up of, you know, we're now on, was it Meaningful Vote 3, because Meaningful Votes 1 and 2 turned out not to be very meaningful at all. And it's now they're talking about this Meaningful Vote 3 might not happen because Theresa May can't get it through Westminster Parliament. And we just don't know what's going to be happening by the end of this week. Now, I personally hope that we can, by some miracle, avoid the catastrophe of Brexit. Scotland didn't vote for it. Scotland didn't want it. Scotland voted against Brexit by a considerably larger margin than it voted to remain a part of the United Kingdom. And yet, throughout this entire Brexit process, Scotland's voice has been completely ignored, sidelined, and marginalised by the British government in Westminster. And that all by itself is a material change in circumstances that justifies Scotland having another independence referendum. Even if, by some miracle, we can avoid Brexit altogether, Scotland still has justification for another independence referendum, because this United Kingdom that we're in is not the United Kingdom that was sold to us in 2014. Who here feels that Scotland is an equal and valued partner in a family of nations? It's a farce. And that's what Brexit has taught us, the whole Brexit process. The Brexit process has taught us that the union that they were so proud of is a lie. There is no union. There is only a unitary British state. And a Scotland that is dragged along in the wake of English nationalism. If this really was a union, there would be some constitutional structures within the British state to protect Scotland, but there aren't. And that's why we can't say anymore that Scotland is a part of a union. And that's why I think as we go into this next independence debate, this next independence referendum, that we have to change the language that we used back in 2014. We should no longer be talking about nationalists versus unionists, because there is no union. All there is are British nationalists. Because this isn't a debate between nationalists and non-nationalists. This is a debate about Scotland's future. This is a debate about the kind of country that we want to live in. And you don't magically get a free pass from nationalism because you support the continuation of the British state and Westminster rule in Scotland. That makes you a British nationalist. And as an independent supporter, I'm not going to collude in your delusions. I'm going to call you for what you are. Now, partly is to do with the shortcomings of the English language. I've said this before. You know, in Spanish, and I lived in Spain for 15 years, I speak Spanish. Spanish has two separate words for the different concepts of the kind of right-wing, regressive, xenophobic nationalism that has driven Brexit, the British nationalism of Brexit, and the desire for a country that wants independence to achieve independence. In Spanish, that second one's not called nationalism, it's called independentismo. And when I'm speaking in Spanish to my Spanish friends, I never call myself a Scottish nationalist. I say I'm an independentista escocés. But unfortunately, when you say that in English, you say you're an independentist, people just ask you how much you charge for orthodontic work. And it doesn't get you very far. So we're kind of stuck with a label of Scottish nationalists. But if we have to be Scottish nationalists, they have to be British nationalists. And we shouldn't let them get away with pretending that somehow, by supporting the continuation of the British state, by supporting a Scotland that doesn't have a say and has been dragged out of the European Union against their will, that they somehow are magically not nationalists, because they represent the very worst kind of nationalism. They represent that xenophobia, that inward looking, that parochialism, that belief that they are somehow better than everyone else, the very kind of things that Independence for Scotland wants to reject. Because it's Scottish independence which is internationalist. It's Scottish independence which is outward looking. It's Scottish independence which says that everybody's equal, everybody has the same chance. And we welcome and are honoured when people choose to throw their lot in with Scotland and come to live here and become a part of us. And that's the big difference. That's the big difference between the Scottish independence campaign and the British nationalism that has driven Brexit. We welcome the rest of the world. We look forward to it. We want it to come here. We are honoured and proud that they want to become a part of our story. British nationalism is inward-looking, it's regressive, it's xenophobic, and those are all the kind of things that Scotland rejects. Now, back in 2014, I never quite believed that we would do it, because I'm a Glaswegian, you know, and like most Glaswegians, I was born a cynical bastard, and I've just become more and more of a cynical bastard the older that I've got it. So the whole kind of happy-clappy, you know, independence movement of 2014, to be honest, it didn't really sit well with me. And I think one of the lessons that we've learned is that what we need to do now as we move into this new independence vote, this new independence referendum campaign, we have to talk about the downsides and the negativities of remaining a part of the United Kingdom. We have to talk about the threat that the United Kingdom and the British state and the Westminster system represents to Scotland, represents to our public services, represents to the very way that we see ourselves in the world. And when you look at people who've moved from no to yes, you know, they don't talk about the positive image of a better Scotland. They talk about their disillusionment with the British state. They talk about the promises that were made in 2014 that were broken. You know, I've actually tried to think of any kind of promise that was made to us in 2014 by the Better Together people that they actually kept. You know, they said we'd have all this investment in Scottish renewable energy. It didn't happen. They told us that, you know, that we would have stronger, safer, better devolution. Didn't happen. Told us that, you know, we would be safe within the European Union. That didn't happen. The only promise that they made that I can actually think that has been kept was that Michelle Mone said she was going to leave the country. Which I cheered as much about that as well. But I'm going to finish up now. But I just want to leave you with this. Back in 2014, I never thought that we could do it. There was always a wee voice at the back of my head. I so much wanted to believe, but there was always a wee voice at the back of my head that said, I don't think we can, I don't think we can. As we move into a new independence referendum campaign, and make no mistake, there is one coming, because one way or another, the people of Scotland will have their say, and we do not need the permission of Theresa May in order to do so. Don't listen to anybody who says that an independence referendum without a Section 30 order would be illegal, because it's never been tested in the courts. They don't know it's illegal. They're assuming it's illegal. They're hoping it's illegal. They want it to be illegal. But even if the courts ruled that an independence referendum without a Section 30 order, a consultative referendum, exactly like the EU referendum was a consultative referendum, even if that was ruled to be illegal, there is absolutely nothing to prevent the next set of elections in Scotland being turned into an effective referendum on Scottish independence. So one way or another, the people of Scotland will have their say, and we do not need the permission of Theresa May or anyone else in order to do so. And as we go into this campaign, you know, the question that Scotland was faced in 2014 was, should Scotland become an independent country? And I don't think that's the question anymore. The question now is, when should Scotland become an independent country? And the answer to that question is, as soon as bloody possible. Thank you all for listening.
Brothers and sisters, please put your hands together. Paul Kavanagh and the wee ginger duck.